So bad decision after bad decision, essentially the worst possible decision at every possible junction, have led Ineos and Manchester United down a road where uncomfortable decisions have to be made. And I say uncomfortable really meaning unpopular and slightly radical, and that's because most people decide who should be sold and who should stay in a particular window purely based off isolation, looking at a player individually and asking whether they're good enough for that level that the team wants to be at or the role that they need to play in the side, and then coming to a conclusion on whether they should be sold based on that, rather than analysing the squad as a whole and then making the decisions that way. In short, people are far too focused on the micro and don't consider the macro enough. But how does this relate to Matthijs de Ligt and Manuel Ugarte? Well, when discussing who should be sold in the summer, I haven't really heard these two players' names mentioned, really at all, and that's mainly because people have a bias where they tend to have a preference for keeping players who have only recently joined the club, because somehow they think it's only fair to give a player 2 seasons to prove themselves, rather than being ruthless and just cutting their losses, and that's most definitely the case with Ugarte and de Ligt. And so in this video I'm going to be talking about the logic behind selling both Ugarte and de Ligt in the summer, whilst then giving you two players who could replace them that would be better fits for the roles they need to play in the squad and also help our PSR and FFP situations. Now I should say that this is me theorising, not giving any concrete opinions at this point, because I've realised that people seem to not understand the concept of me just exploring different ideas and then pop up 8 months later saying I wanted to sign or sell a specific player, despite them not featuring in my more concrete who Manchester United should sign or sell videos. But I think this is a theory that United might have to pursue. See, due to United's pretty abysmal FFP and PSR situation, we are basically in the football equivalent of austerity, and cuts have to be made and revenue has to be raised in order to give us any chance to reinvest adequately. The issue I see presented with de Ligt and Ugarte is, whilst I do think both players are Champions League level, and if they were to stay beyond the summer could play important roles in Amorim's Manchester United, given that both players can function in their respective roles in the system, both players for me are like 7 out of 10s. They aren't squares being plugged into round holes, more ovals if you get the analogy. See, I don't look at de Ligt and think he's 100% the perfect player to play as Amorim's central centre-back or even the right-sided centre-back, mainly because I think he lacks the incisive passing ability of Lisandro Martinez or Harry Maguire, and with Amorim also wanting to push the central centre-back up to the edge of the box during the build-up phase, I think he lacks a press resistance and overall technical ability to operate in these areas. With Manuel Ugarte, I think he's perfect for big games, playing the role of a destructive ball winner, breaking up play in the centre, stopping attacks, and being a counter-pressing weapon higher up the pitch as well. But when it comes to games against the likes of Palace or Fulham, he just doesn't have the press resistance, ball carrying, or incisive passing ability to the level required to be a starter week in, week out. I think Ugarte's far better in a reactive system where United aren't the main protagonists in the game, with the opposition being the ones who tend to dominate possession, compared to when he's in a proactive system when his creativity in possession is far more essential than his industriousness out of possession. The other issue I have with these two is that they aren't versatile enough in the sense that their skill sets aren't as complete as you'd probably like. Now before I break this down, a quick reminder, I do have a Patreon where you can get access to my articles for $1.50 a month. I've just put out one on Luis Campos and how he transformed AS Monaco with the strategies he used. And I'm also going to be putting one out on Beppe Marotta and going through some different directors of football that I think could work well for United. I also do have an in-game Instagram group chat where we do have analysis and discussion throughout all the Manchester United games, and I am releasing a tactical ebook probably next week, and if you are in the group chat you will get that for free. So if you do want to sign up to the Patreon, I think you can get a 7-day free trial for the lower tier. I'll leave that linked in all the usual places, the eye above, description, comment section, and on the end screen after the video. See, the issue is Ugarte can only really play as a ball winner in central midfield, and whilst de Ligt can play as a central centre-back or a right-sided centre-back, as a right-sided centre-back he doesn't really have the ability to join the attack and provide the movement ahead of the wing-back that someone in that position like Mazraoui or Dalot could, because they are more fullbacks than centre-backs. Now this wouldn't be a problem if they were players on fairly low wages who weren't worth that much, and so could quite comfortably play squad roles where they come in for certain games but aren't mainstays who are the first names on the team sheet from game to game. But considering both players' ages, abilities and salaries, I think you have to consider selling them, mainly because if you sell them in the summer, you probably are going to recoup what you paid for them the summer before, which you can't say for many Manchester United players. I think we should get our money back for De Ligt, considering we paid about £38 million. Maybe not as probable with Ugarte, but you'd still get at least £35 million at least for Ugarte, probably the £42 million that you paid if you had a competent negotiator. And so for me, if you're United and you can raise around £80 million, maybe £75 million, and potentially break even on two players who aren't exactly key in Amorim's 3-4-3, and players who are going to be starters week in, week out, I think you have to at least consider selling them and bringing in someone cheaper, who's more complete and more versatile, and then using the money you've made towards reinvesting in players who are going to be starters in both a reactive and proactive game plan, against top sides like Liverpool and Arsenal, and also against sides where United are going to dominate possession like against West Ham or Palace. Ideally, you'd sell De Ligt and sign someone whose skill set was more of a mix between him and Mazraoui, a centre-back who had the physical and aerial qualities of De Ligt, but also the athleticism and ability to play more as a fullback like Mazraoui. And someone who would have been perfect for this role in the summer, and someone I actually suggested we sign, would have been Mohamed Simakan, who was signed by Al Nassr later on in the window for around £35 million. Now obviously we didn't know we were going to be using a back three with Amorim at the time, but even still, Simakan could have pretty comfortably played as either a right-sided centre-back or a right-back in a back four, and would have cost less than De Ligt, which with Dalot and Euro also in the squad may have negated the need to bring in another right-back like Mazraoui, bringing in further savings on both transfer fees and salaries. The same goes for Ugarte. Now to be fair, there aren't many central midfielders who can play different positions, but you can get players who have the skill sets to play different roles. Ugarte can really only play one role as a ball winner or a defensive midfielder, but someone like João Neves has a far more complete skill set, providing the industry of a ball winner combined with the press resistance, ball carrying and incisive passing ability of a more creative central midfield role, such as either a box-to-box midfielder, a roaming playmaker or a deeper lying playmaker. And so whilst Neves would have been more expensive than Ugarte, going to PSG from Benfica in a deal which worked out at around £58 million, with Renato Sanchez being valued at about £8 million in that, it would have actually been like signing two players, because whilst in an ideal world you'd have another central midfielder akin to Christian Eriksen, just more athletic and better defensively, who could come in for Ugarte in games against opposition like Fulham or Palace, whilst Ugarte plays against the likes of Liverpool and City. With Neves you wouldn't have to make those personnel switches, because he can comfortably adapt and switch between roles in central midfield that he's asked to play from game to game. I think if you're going to have these more limited, specialised players like a De Ligt or Ugarte in your squad, they have to be on lower salaries or just cost less in terms of the transfer fee. For example, someone like Anguissa at Napoli, if he doesn't agree to his 2-year extension, which is in his contract but he does have to agree to, United could get him on a free. And whilst Ugarte is a better ball winner, Anguissa is still a pretty good ball winner and also a better ball carrier and a greater threat in the final third. Also, if United could bring Mohamed Simakan back to Europe for around what Al Nassr paid for him, around £35 million, then if we could sell both De Ligt and Ugarte for between £75 to £85 million, now we've replaced them in the squad with two players who have a far more complete skill set and made £35 to £40 million at least in the process. And that money could then be reinvested in either signing a central centre-back, maybe a left-sided centre-back, or go towards signing an elite-level central midfielder like Tijani Reinders, for example. And so when you look at it like that with a cost-benefit analysis, selling players like Ugarte and De Ligt should at least be a consideration for United in the summer. So let me know, would you sell De Ligt and Ugarte if we could get our money back in the summer? Who would you replace them with? And if you do want to sign up to my Patreon to read my articles and watch my unreleased videos, or get access to the in-game Instagram group chat, I'll leave that linked on the end screen now.